I'm going to be different than the last talk because the last talk worries about you, and I don't care about you. Okay, so we're going to start that way. So look what I'm going to do with the F-15. There's the grid. I'm going to bomb it. I'm going to destroy it. I'm going to destroy everything, except for that little person right there who's going to hold their own energy. So actually, I'm not at odds at all about what you heard, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But you can't get safer if you control your own energy. And you can't get cleaner, and you can't. Everything goes to the individual. And so I want to talk to you about personalized energy. And I just want to throw some quick numbers up here, not a lot, but I do a lot of global energy calculations, and a lot of people use my numbers, and then they mess it up. So I'm going to tell you what I did, because you got to understand what the challenge is, and then you're going to see how I'm in line with Masood, what he just talked about. And that is, right now you're using 14 terawatts. The terawatt's a trillion watts, and that's a big light bulb, all right? And that's what you're burning at this second. So it's burn rate, energy per unit time. You don't need to worry about, as Nocera talking about, a day or a year. So that's how much energy you're burning. And you're going to need 16 in the next 42 years. So close your eyes and think about 42 years from now. I'll be dead, but you know there's a lot of kids around. So just close your eyes, think about a kid right now that you like, and this is going to be their future, okay? And it's going to be a bad future if you look at these numbers, because that number right there, the 5 to 7 terawatts, is the entire crop basis of the world, and I collected it and burned it to CO2 and water. You can't get any more energy out of crops, fastest growing crops in the world, all right? That's because photosynthesis has a limit of 10%. The best crops grow at 1%. You can't do better. I took all the wind. It's only 10 meters above the ground. You should go higher. If you take the entire lower atmosphere, there's 60 terawatts, but you got to take out the entire atmosphere. That's the Stanford study. But if you're at 10 meters, that's all the wind energy. Here's nuclear. If I want 8, because I got to get to 16, so we'll go 8 plus 7 plus some wind, and I'll barely get there. 8 terawatts, we can do this calculation in real time. 8 terawatts, a power plant puts out a gigawatt. 8 terawatts divided by a gigawatt's 8,000. 40 years from now, 8,000 divided by 40 is 200. You got to build me 200 power plants every year to get 8 terawatts. If you did it linearly, that's one every 1.5 days. And then when you're done, you got to decommission the one you're building now because they're only rated for 50 years. And then you got to keep building. So you're building forever to get half of your energy that I'll need in the future. 200 a year forever to get me 8 terawatts with nuclear. Now, where do I get in line with Masood? Because right here, this is 14 terawatts. I'm saying you're going to need 16, and then you got to figure out why do you need 16. The first assumption I made is that you guys would do all the right thing and listen to him and save 100% of the energy you're using today. 100%. And then I still need 16. If you want to be dummies and not listen to him, you got to give me 45 terawatts, not 30. All right? So in the legacy world, I want you to save every bit of your energy, and you still have to give me 16 terawatts. Right? And you just saw what it's going to take to get there. Now, where is that coming from? So now you want to try to solve the energy problem. You better start thinking, where should you attack? And the place it's coming from is 3 billion people don't have energy, and 3 billion people haven't been born yet. Right? So since I started speaking, probably, let me just say, I have 20 minutes. So you'll have by the time I'm done speaking, there'll be 100,000 people born into the world right now, okay? They're driving your energy need, and there's 3 billion who don't have it. And so if you want to go after the energy problem, and I assume you'll do the right thing, which you won't, because we always mess up, I am going to say, even if you do, I still won't take care of this energy problem unless I go and help people, what I call non-legacy, people without stuff, right? And so therefore, what I want to do is go after, I don't even like saying non-developed, just say people without stuff. And that means I should probably not do what the Department of Energy does all the time, which takes big systems and then tries to make them tinier. And then they say it's too costly. And that's costly because usually I get so many people mad they start rushing the stage. I was a little nervous there. Okay. If it's going to be really costly, what you can't do is just make something tiny, because there's this thing called balance of systems. So you got to start from the bottom and work up. And if you don't, I guarantee it will always be too costly. That's what the DOE always tells you they're right. That's what all these dumb firms that you can get their estimates about where energy will be in the future. By the way, you spend a lot of money. They just get on Google and they do division. So don't listen to them all the time. So if you want to start doing something, I'm going to get to this manufacturing idea, okay, which you heard about earlier. I need to manufacture, and the way I'm going to take care of the scaling problems, I'm going to do things really well for you at the individual level and just make a lot of it. I want to put this up. If you take care of the energy problem, I don't like listening to how I go to Davos a lot. It's so dumb because they talk about water here and energy here and other stuff there. They're all integrated. If you take care, look at some of these numbers. 7 trillion gallons of water are used in power generation. You're losing half a gallon of water down the drain for every kilowatt you make. So if you take care of the energy problem, you go a long way to solving the water problem. Right? Don't separate them. By the way, everybody always they assume research scientists, academician, how do you solve the energy problem? Give Dan Nocera lots of money. That's what they're always expecting, right? How would you do it, though, now that you understand this? If you want to make the biggest impact, what would you do? Stop 3 billion people from being born. You know, how do you do that? You social engineer. This is very drastic, because I'm on web pages. They all blog me to death about being an awful and evil human. I would want to educate poor females. Wow. Okay? You educate poor females, birth rates drop like a rock. So if you want to make a big impact on energy, and you don't know what to do, start educating poor females. Again, oh boy, thanks. I guess I didn't have to tell you guys. But don't clap too loud, because I said you guys always mess it up, so you won't. So you're going to have to need me after all. Okay. Just when it sounds good. Okay, it's all down the tubes again. So you heard about solar. Even if you get the cheapest solar panels in the world, you're still doomed, because you guys don't like living when the sun goes down. Or you do like living when the sun goes down. So you need energy, so you need storage. Let me do something with we heard about electrons. The problem with electrons is they have a negative charge, and this is a negative charge, and they don't like getting near each other. So here's the energy that you get, because I got to store the sun now. So I'm going to get the sun at the individual level, give it to you, and you got to store it at night. It's got to be cheap, because it's for the non-legacy world. Don't let anybody tell you batteries are going to get better. They can't. Physically impossible. Okay? And let me tell you why. I'm a chemist, so listen to me now. Electron comes on metal, electron comes on metal, electron comes on metal with oxygen in between. Unless I have a special way to compress matter and not make it more dense, battery energy storage can never go up, ever. All right, so don't let people tell you that. What they are telling you that's important is what's called power density. If you want it in your car, you're going to have to go from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. Then you need to get the energy in and out quickly. But you're still going to have to get in that Tesla with its thousands of pounds of batteries, and that's what you're going to have to drive. If you're going to go with Shah Agassi in Israel, you better be ready every 20 kilometers to replug in or dump your battery pack, okay? And he's not going to make it better, sorry. Can't help physical laws of nature. All right? So they're lousy, 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 lousy. Why do we use fuels? You already figured it out. You've been doing it for 100 years. You use fuels because they have lots of energy. All right? You could have been using batteries, you chose not to. You could have used lots of other energy. So when push comes to shove, you get a lot of energy out of fuels, and that's because I can put electrons in very tiny volumes of space. So it is electrons again, but if you're a scientist and you remember when you take an electron and you put an electron opposite spin, they pair and they make a bond, and that's the smallest area you can put energy. So that's why bonds work. Now, I just scammed you guys because all I talked about was energy density, how much energy per weight. Why would I do that? And look at this. This is kind of neat. So here's a Boeing 777 etching tool, machine tool, automobile. Have them all on the same curve. And we heard about manufacturing. Let's put some meat behind manufacturing. Look at what I plotted. This is like I'm being really dumb, which I usually am. It's just pounds and dollars, and you tell me how many you make. And I put you all on the same curve. So there's a Boeing 777 etching machine. What won't work here is an Intel chip in a pharmaceutical. I'm talking about just manufacturing stuff, not flitty stuff, real stuff, okay? So there you go. It all fits. You just need to know the weight and how many you make. Now watch this. If I can put a Boeing 777 and a McDonald's hamburger on the same curve, there's something up here. Now, what's wrong with energy systems? How do you guys think about energy, or how do we live energy? You don't even build them. You build fewer than Boeing 7. You build one thing, and it weighs a lot. So you're way up here. And I guess what I'm telling you, if you're going to attack this non-legacy world and get them energy, then what you need to do is go way out here. Go to infinite production, and you better make it light. It's that simple. It's exactly how we don't do energy. You guys are pop tech. You used to thinking like this, so start doing it with energy. That's why you hear Metcalf always saying enertech. So what you got to do, that's why I like energy density, because energy density means it's light and I can make a lot of it. Okay, how does the leaf work? A leaf works by, it stores a tremendous amount of energy, but then it needs to use it. So why is photosynthesis not great? And this is one problem always with biology. If you live, most living things use most of the energy to live, right? Not to give you oil wells. And so this thing, the way it works is it takes light in, and this is from, remember when you were in grade school, light plus water and CO2 makes sugar and O2. What you don't realize is that most of the energy storage is in water splitting up front, O2, and you make hydrogen. The hydrogen you make is NADPH, okay? That's just solid hydrogen, nature's hydrogen. And then it fixes it with CO2, but there's no energy here. This is called the Calvin cycle. No energy. That's a structural engineering problem. Plants need to stand up. That's what it's doing there. All the energy storage is right up front. Sunlight in, rearrange the bonds of water, and make hydrogen and oxygen. So here's a fuel, CH bonds, right? That's fuel. There's oxygen. You just turn the engine on in your car. Here's what happens, watch. Look at that. And Telluride, I almost won People's Choice for Best Film, beating out my friend Marshall Herskovitz, who did Blood Diamond, almost. Okay, so CH bond plus OO bond, right? I'm going to burn it. Here it is again. 18 hours of PowerPoint to make this. Okay, there you go. What you get CO2 and water, and then you use the extra energy. That's what you do. So what's a plant doing? It takes low energy bonds, water, uses sunlight to rearrange the bonds. You need the sunlight, rearranges the bonds to make oxygen and hydrogen. So you take those bonds, rearrange them, and you store the energy in high energy bonds. If you guys don't like hydrogen, I don't have any I'm agnostic. Then take the hydrogen and go the extra step with plants. You're not going to store energy, but you'll put it in a liquid fuel. So then fund people to do that. But the bottom line is you want to use water as your energy source. Remember, in this thing, in photosynthesis, what you're doing, the CO2 is only a hydrogen carrier. It's not storing energy. It's just carrying hydrogen. So you do what you feel like. But you're going to use water. That's one of the things I want you to do. Now, why do I want you to use water? Because I can tell you how much energy in one molecule of water, and then if you have a bunch of mole, it's called, I can tell you how much energy is in there. There's the MIT pool. Remember those horrible numbers I told you about? And I said those kids might be in big trouble? Well, they aren't. All right, so here's your message of hope. All right, I'm serious. That pool, if I took it to hydrogen and oxygen per second globally, you know how much energy I get? I can store 43 terawatts. I only need, so listen to me now, I only need 1/3 the MIT pool, and I have to take it to hydrogen and oxygen, and if you don't like hydrogen, fix it with CO2, I could care less. But you gotta just take that much water using sunlight, and I can take care of this problem, right? That's at 100% efficiency. If you're going to use hydrogen, you have a fuel cell. It's 50% efficient. So we're at double, 2/3 a pool. The bottom line is I'm talking about solving the energy problem with an Olympic-sized pool of water, all right, that we'll be doing globally per second. That's your hope. And it's because there's so much energy density in that fuel. So what you want to do then, you want to be the hamburger meat of energy, because now I got to do that cheaply. And that means forget about always being so efficient. It's always just like efficient. With efficiency comes huge costs. I'm going to give up efficiency at the price of being able to make something quickly. That is something, if I could split water out of that glass, I could make something cheap and maybe highly manufacturable. That's what my group did a year and a half ago. I guess that's why I'm here. We figured out how to do artificial photosynthesis. Okay, so we made a thing, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. It self-assembles immediately. It works at almost perfect efficiency, 80% efficiency. It can take sunlight from a photovoltaic, and it can split water to hydrogen and oxygen. Out of a glass of water, works under inexpensive, it's highly manufacturable, it's self-healing. Isn't that nice? We figured out how, as it broke down, it could fix itself, so it's the first time that something like this is always healing itself, never have to go back to it. Here's another one I like. Look at this. Every commercial thing dies, and we run ours out of the Charles River, okay? And we can use human wastewater, and we can use, so you hear what I'm saying now? Not only can you take water and store energy, if I had human wastewater or junky water, I can split it, make hydrogen and oxygen, and then recombine it and have clean drinking water, okay? So that's what's happening. So you have distributed energy and clean water for the future. Let me show you how your option now, this is my point, you can buy one of these things off of Google between $10,000 and $50,000, and they're manufactured one at a time. I gave up this number, look at, I gave up a factor of 10. It's all plastic. We can mass produce it. It's just plastic, and we can be at $100. The DOE target for hydrogen, or if you want to make a liquid fuel, 2025 is $2,000 per kilowatt. By next year, I guarantee we'll be at around $300 per kilowatt, all right? And 15 years early, because we made something from the ground up. That's why you should invest in basic science. Okay, so you're gonna live like this. Look it, that's how it's gonna work. Light in, this is a pretty expensive home. But I can now start to think about this. So let me explain how it's gonna work. Light in, you can use cheap PV. You heard about a cheap PV, inkjet. It turns out Sharp is throwing away 6% silicon. They just throw it away, throw it away. I can use it for poor people right now and save a lot of lives. So I can take cheap PV, go to this all plastic electrolyzer. Storing hydrogen and oxygen is not hard. It's just a tank, it's stationary, you just put it there. You can go into Sears and buy a canister, but then you need a fuel cell. But your house becomes a gas station and power station, right? And so either you use the hydrogen in a fuel cell or make a liquid fuel. So here we go, mainframe. Look at, doesn't this sound familiar? Mainframes, personal computers. You guys love this stuff? Look at, you saw cell phones? Look at, oops, grid. Oh, personal energy. The grid is the mainframe. You saw a picture of old cell phones. Here's a picture of old mainframes. Watch the grid now, watch. Okay. I'm kidding. I just don't want you to go build the grid in that non-legacy world, because first, it's too big, it's going to cost too much, and then they're going to fuel it with coal. And luckily, we haven't polluted them yet. So let's just go this route, I'm telling you. Here I am in National Geographic last month. I'm holding, for this very expensive house, I calculated the amount of water I have to split the hydrogen and oxygen per day to run that house. Okay? That's it. So if I go to the non-legacy world, you know, we heard about kids in Africa. Imagine a lot of them are going 3 hours to read at the airport at night and then walk back. All I need is one of those little drink bottles of water you're drinking today. I just need 3/4 of it, the hydrogen and oxygen. And I can give those kids 150 watts a day, would change their lives. So that's where the future is. It's not that bad. I'm telling you, it's a message of hope. We just have to deal with water and sun, and you'll be fine. Okay, thanks.